What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. So, trying to kind of a different setup here with some audio and stuff like that. So we're going to see how this works out. So, had an idea I was kind of mulling over. I watched a video the other day, and it really got me kind of thinking about this topic. And this is kind of a topic that's been kind of in a roundabout way, like talked about before, but like from this particular angle, maybe not so much. And it is venues kind of going to this, like, not even allowing bands to have amps on stage. So, like, only using, like, modelers front of house, and, like, the venue itself being like, no, you can't have an amp on the stage. And I've seen some videos of this, you know, people talking about this, and it had me kind of like thinking, you know, like, how do I feel about that? And I think how I or you feel about it is kind of indifferent. I think it doesn't matter how me and you feel about it, because it's just a thing that's happening. Like, you don't have any kind of pull, you don't have any kind of say in it, right? Like, and some of the examples that were given in this video, they kind of won me over, they kind of made sense. I say won me over. I mean, I don't really like places kind of telling you what you can and can't do, but at the end of the day, here's the thing. At the end of the day, there's 1,000 bands, and they're all trying to get gigs, and there's only so many places to play. And if you want to play gigs, and venues are going to start requiring these types of things, you got one of two options. You're not going to get the gig, or you're going to get with the times. And you know, it kind of just is what it is. And the video I saw, the guy's perspective was kind of more from, he was a sound guy, and his perspective was kind of more from the sound guy perspective. And this is where it really made sense to me, was like, these same places also don't want, like, if you're a sound guy and they book you to come do sound for a gig, and you show up and you have a huge board and a big snake, and you're taking up a whole section of the bar or the club or whatever it is, you know, with all this stuff, they don't really like that. Like, you're there as entertainment. Now, we're talking about this from the perspective of, like, you know, cover bands, bar bands, tribute bands, you know, kind of wedding bands, like whatever, that kind of stuff, right? Like, if you're like a touring musician in your own original band, this stuff probably won't apply to you. But most of us aren't those people. Most of us are tribute bands, cover bands, working musicians, right? And we're playing these small to mid-sized clubs, you know, couple 300 cap rooms. And if these places start going to this type of model where they're like, yeah, nah, no amps, you know, it just is what it is. They don't want their sound guys coming in and bringing in huge boards and taking up all the space. You know, this guy gave a good example, was like, you know, he uses a wireless mixer and an iPad, and they always book him, and they're always like, man, I just wish these other guys we booked to do sound would do things like you do them, and not bring in these huge consoles and take up all this space and stuff. And it kind of had me thinking, you know, and the same on the band end. They don't want you to come in and bring in your Ampeg 810 and your 412 cabinets and just blow out the sound system and take up a bunch of space and stuff. And it's like, you're there for entertainment. You're there as part of their business to, like, draw people in and keep people engaged. And, you know, the people are there to see a band, yes, but they're there to have a good time, and they're there to hang out with their friends and buy some drinks and whatever. Like, you're not Jimmy Page. They're not there to just, like, see Led Zeppelin. They're not there to see your, you know, like, in that kind of context. You're there for them. They're not there for you. And I think that's the thing a lot of musicians kind of miss these days, and they don't realize. They think they're Zakk Wylde, or they think they're, you know, whatever. And that's not the case. And these places are going to start going to this type of thing, and, you know, I know a lot of people have their feelings about, like, modelers and those kinds of things, but, you know, at the end of the day, you kind of have to ask yourself, like, what do you want to do? Like, what's more important to you? Do you want to play gigs? Do you want to make money? Do you want to get booked again? Like, or do you just want to be kind of this, like, hardline holdout that is like, no, I'm going to, you know, go with my tube amp or whatever. And if you decide to be that way, like, the world's not going to miss you. I'm sorry, that's like super harsh, but the world's not going to miss you. There's 100 other bands behind you with a tiny little rack with their in-ear thing in it and some pedal boards, and they'll be right in line to do that gig. And it's kind of like going on at a faster rate than I kind of thought that this thing would happen, but I mean, it makes sense with the advent of all this stuff and the way that this technology is. It just totally makes sense that, like, some of these venues are being like, hey, we don't want a band to come in here and be super crazy loud. And, I run sound at a bar professionally, and the only band I've ever had a bartender come up to me and go, hey man, is there any way you can turn them down, was a band that had full, huge cabs and live amps on the stage. And it was, it's like so loud that the bartenders can't even talk to the people trying to order drinks at the bar. And it's like, it can be frustrating. And so I understand, and it's frustrating for me as a sound guy, because it's like I'm in this room that is, a particular size room, and it's not super big, and 100-watt all-tube amp and a huge 810 bass cabinet. It's just like, what can I do? Like, I've got the guitars and the bass like pulled all the way down in the system, and I'm just trying to crank the drums and the guitars up. The drums and the vocals like up over everything else, and it's like I'm in a volume war with the band, and the bar doesn't want that. They want people to come in and hang out and drink and have a good time and be able to talk to each other, and there's a band playing. Like, so I think a lot of us as, like, regular gigging musicians kind of need to have a little reflective moment here and look at ourselves in the mirror and, like, really say to ourselves, like, what are we trying to do, right? What's the goal of what we're doing? Like, we're here to work for this bar, to be a source of entertainment, and to please the people that are here and please the people that have hired us so that they will hire us again, right? And the more into the future we get, the less that means hauling in giant half stacks and stuff and blasting everybody away, because people don't want that anymore. And that's just a thing that we're going to have to come to terms with as musicians and gigging bands, is that, like, people don't want that. In that context, the majority of people don't want that anymore. And it makes things more difficult, and it makes things harder to deal with, and, it is what it is. And I'm not saying this from the perspective of someone that's, like, whole hog, all in behind that philosophy. I like tube amps, and I like that stuff, but in the context that most of us everyday musicians work in, that stuff is dying out more and more. And the places that we play are moving away from dealing with that. So, my advice would be to, become acquainted with this modern technology. Like, stop running away from it. Like, I see so many sound guys that are still using, like, big giant analog boards, and the preamps sound better, and it's like, man, maybe they do. I've got I don't, but I know someone that has I used to use this board a lot. They have this really nice Allen and Heath board, and it has these beautiful preamps in it, and it's the best sounding board, and I've used it before, and I love that board, and I'm the only person that cares in the whole venue. I'm the only person that cares and that can hear and tell the difference in the quality of those preamps. Just me, the sound guy. No one else cares. And that board is big, and it doesn't have any built-in effects, and you have to have rack effects. If you want to have any type of reverb or compression or anything, you got to have rack effects with it. It takes up more space, and you got to have a huge snake to run out to the stage. Or I have a little Mackie DSL 16 digital mixer that fits in a 4-space rack and an iPad. And it has all the effects and the compression and gates and everything I would ever need built into it, and I set it on the stage, and I sync my iPad to it, and I run sound. I did a gig last week. That's exactly what I did. I took two 12-inch powered PA speakers and that board, and I did sound for an artist, for a solo acoustic artist, with two little 12-inch powered speakers and that board, and I fit it all in the back of my wife's car. It just is what it is, guys. The times are changing, and what venues want and bars want is changing. And so my recommendation to us is to don't fight it. There's no point in fighting it. You can't fight it. People are playing guitar through plugins and modelers, and they're running sound off of iPads and cell phones. And if you want to be competitive and you want to get gigs and you want to stay in the business, you're going to have to learn this stuff and understand it and know how to work with it. You're just going to. So, that's the video. So let me, leave me a comment. Let me know how you feel about this. If it just enrages you immediately, no venue's going to tell me what to do. I get it, man. I get it. I understand the frustration. I do. But what's more important to you? Having your giant amp or actually being able to play gigs? Ask yourself that question and really think about it. Alright. Hope you guys liked the video. Leave me a comment. Like I said, let me know how you feel about it all. And I'll be back soon.